You are almost asleep. The room is gone. Your body has gone soft and heavy, and then you drop one hard jolt, like you missed a step on a staircase that was never there, and you're suddenly awake, heart going, faintly embarrassed in an empty room. Up to 70% of adults feel this at some point, going by the usual estimate. It has a name, a hypnic jerk. And you have almost certainly been told exactly why it happens, by someone who sounded completely sure. Here is the story you have heard. Deep in your past, your ancestors slept in trees. When a body starts falling asleep, the muscles go loose, and an old reflex reads that loosening as the beginning of a fall. So the brain fires a jolt to make you grab, to catch the branch, to save your own life on the way down. It is a beautiful explanation. It turns a twitch into a fossil. So I went and read the paper that story gets traced back to. It is by two researchers at the University of Colorado, the psychologist Frederick Coolidge and the anthropologist Thomas Wynn, published in 2006. And it does not say what people think it says. What it says, in plain words, is that the ultimate cause of the hypnic jerk is unknown. Unknown. The tree idea appears there as, in their words, a common hypothesis, not a finding, not a result, an idea a lot of people happen to share. So I cannot tell you the tree story is wrong. That would just be a second confident story stacked on the first. What I can tell you is that nobody has ever shown it is right, and the certainty you heard it delivered with was never in the science. It came from repetition. Those same authors even lean into the idea, suggesting the jolt might have earned its keep a second way, by making a sleeper readjust their position on a branch so that a fall never happened at all. Nobody here is busting a myth. A good guess is just sitting where it has always sat. And what we firmly know about the jerk is oddly small. It arrives at the border between waking and sleeping in perfectly healthy people at any age. It gets worse with stress, with exhaustion, with caffeine, with certain medications. One team wired up healthy adults across every age group and logged 4,057 separate movements across their nights. Of the movements they could confidently classify, hypnic jerks were 1 4/10%. Legs, just twitching, outnumbered them nearly 60-1. Out of everything that moved in the dark, your famous terrifying jolt is roughly 0.6%. It is a rounding error, which is exactly why the answer was never going to be in the twitch. But hold on to the falling, because the falling is the interesting part. As you drop toward dreaming, your body really is paralyzed. That is not a figure of speech. There are inhibitory neurons whose entire job is to keep your muscles from acting out your dreams. And Michel Jouvet explored the role they play. Adrian Morrison then destroyed those neurons in cats. The sleeping cats began acting out predatory actions, hunting prey that was not in the room. Presumably, write Coolidge and Wynn, the content of their dreams. Presumably, even describing a real result they hedged. In humans, when that same switch leaks, we call it REM sleep behavior disorder. So the paralysis is real, and some part of you notices it happening, which raises a quieter possibility. The falling you seem to remember may not be a memory of falling at all, just your brain feeling itself go limp and grabbing the fastest story that fits. Van de Kassel suggested that Carl Sagan preferred the tree. Neither of them proved it. Here is where it turns though, because the tree is real. It is just not hiding in that twitch. It is hiding in the shape of your entire night. Start here. Sleep of this shape is old. The split between deep, slow-wave sleep and REM, the dreaming stage, has at least 140 million year history behind it. Everything on that family tree got a version of it. Yours came out strange. Tally the dreaming stage across the primates, the way the comparative studies have, and the great apes come in around 7 to 15% of their sleep. Most monkeys, 5 to 15. You spend 25%, a quarter of your night, dreaming, roughly double your closest living relatives. On a branch of the family where everybody dreams a little, you dream a lot. Now look at the relatives who stayed in the branches. A chimpanzee builds a fresh nest every evening before the light goes and stays in it all night. The nest is not a comfort item. It is a floor. It exists so that a body that has gone limp does not go over the side. Chimps do sleep on the ground sometimes, but only about 6% of the time. Gorillas nest on the ground routinely, and that is not courage. It is mass. When you are big enough, nothing wants the fight. Everyone else stays up in the dark, braced. Then something came down. Coolidge and Wynn argue Homo erectus made the full move to sleeping on the ground. And this is where the internet version cheats, so I want to be precise. Their strong conclusion is modest. Coming down did not build deep sleep. It stopped forbidding it. The pressure against long, atonic, dream-heavy sleep was released. The branch simply stopped voting. And then they turn around and point at the hole in their own argument before anyone else can. Gorillas sleep on the ground too, and gorillas did not develop long REM. So the ground alone cannot explain you. Something in the Homo erectus life must have pushed toward it as well, and that part, they write, is their admittedly weaker argument. They said that about their own paper. I trust them more for it. And then there is fire. It is tempting to say fire is what let us lie down, and I said exactly that in the first draft of this script, which is how I know how easy it is. So check the dates, the way you would check an alibi. The conservative reading puts controlled fire after 500,000 years ago. The best early hint, burnt bone from Swartkrans, runs to about 1.4 million, and even that, in their words, is well after Homo erectus had appeared. The evidence turns up late. That is not the same as saying fire did not matter, and I will not pretend it is. Coolidge and Wynn say the benefits of fire for a ground sleeper should be obvious, and then write that their own hypothesis would be stronger if someone found managed fire closer to the first Homo erectus. They are not hiding that gap. They are the ones who put it on the page. So how do you get away with it? A researcher named David Sampson went to Tanzania and spent his nights with the Hadza, who still hunt and gather and sleep close to the way people slept for most of our existence. He tracked them across 20 nights. Out of more than 13,000 recorded minutes, the number in which every single person was asleep at once was 18. 18 in 20 nights. That is the number everybody quotes. Here is the part nobody does. Sampson's team turned around and asked whether 18 was surprising at all. They modeled a camp where nobody's inner clock runs any different from anybody else's, and nobody pays the slightest attention to anybody else, and they ran it 1,000 times. 18 landed inside what pure chance produces. So they did not lean on it, and neither will I. They used a different number. How many people are awake at any given moment? In the real camp, 8.65. In the uncoordinated model, 5.07. Across 1,000 simulated nights, not one reached what that camp actually did, not one. Whatever spreads those sleepers out, it is not luck, and you are doing it too. Across that whole stretch, for 99.8% of the night, somebody was awake or drifting in the shallows with no rota and nobody volunteering. The trick was never vigilance. The trick is that we are not copies of each other. When Sampson looked for what shaped a person's chronotype, the private clock that decides when you get sleepy, one thing fell out of the numbers, and it was age. The older you get, the earlier you drift. The grandmother is up before the light and cannot get back down. The teenager cannot switch off until 1 in the morning and would sleep until noon if the world allowed it. Neither of those is a fault. Spread across a family, those mismatched clocks mean the group is almost never all the way under at once. Your grandmother awake at 4 in the morning in a house with a locked door is running the oldest security system our species has on hardware nobody ever told the trees were gone. I should be straight about the limits, because this story is cleaner than the science is. Nobody can wire up a Homo erectus and watch it sleep. The tree-to-ground argument is well built, and it is still an argument. The REM numbers come from different animals measured in different labs in different decades. And the twitch we started with, the one that threw you awake last week, is still unexplained. Nobody gets to stand here and say they solved it. But look at what is left once you take the confident story away. You lost a tidy answer about catching a branch. What you got back is bigger, and this part is actually measured. A quarter of your night spent dreaming, more than any ape in any tree. A body that learned to lie flat in the open, in the dark, with things out there that eat meat and sleep anyway. And a house full of people you love who will never once all be unconscious at the same moment. Because your grandmother wakes at 4 and your nephew has not gone to bed yet. And between them, nothing has ever gotten in. The jolt tonight will still be a mystery. Let it be. The rest of your night already gave the answer away.